This is the Motivated Business Show, hosted by me, Mark Terrell, the author of Motivated, the Reluctant Leader's Guide to Building a Business that Sets You Free. In my book, I share the 7-step process to get the measure of your business. M.E.A.S.U.R.E is an acronym that stands for Mirror, Evaluate, Action, Systemize, Unify, Review, and Energize. On each episode, I'll be chatting to a business owner about how they stay motivated and how they've got the measure of their business. So without further ado, let's find out who's joining me on this episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Motivated Business Show with me, Mark Terrell. Today's guest I met a long time ago at an event, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's all about events, why we should have them, different types of events, and all that sort of jazz. But before we get into that, I just want to remind you of my book, Reason Being, that I will refer to a 7-step process that I wrote about in that book towards the end of the podcast. So if you want to find out more about that 7-step process, you can get that book from either direct from my website, or you can go to Amazon and you can find it there either in paperback or in Kindle format. If you'd like to contribute to the podcast, then we have a Buy Me a Coffee link. And actually there's a QR code there. If you scan that, you go straight through to my Buy Me a Coffee page. And if you buy me 2 coffees, then I will send you a copy of my book. So hopefully that's an incentive to keep the podcast on track, as it were, and also you get a copy of the book to read. So there we are. That's the intros over and done with. Let's bring on our guest. Welcome, Franco.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks. Looking forward to the conversation. Just before we do that, though, let's give you the opportunity to introduce yourself properly.
Thanks, Mark. Well, my name is Franco. I am the founder and CEO of M.E.A.S.U.R.E events. We specialize actually in virtual and hybrid events. But I'm based in Bath, so I also do inbound events in Bath when people are visiting here for away days, corporate away days, that kind of stuff, and people visiting the region. On top of that, I also run the Event Organizers Network. That's my community hat to bring the event community together. So in a nutshell, that's me.
Brilliant. Excellent. So events is the thing. I think the first place you should start then. What's events about? And also we've been through obviously a big change in that we had the pandemic, and I know that I witnessed and saw you adapting to the situation that was thrown at us. So obviously there was this situation where events pre-pandemic, and then there was during the pandemic, which you had to cope with. And now there's the post-pandemic scenario. So it'd be good to hear about how you navigated that and how you see events sort of progressing from this point forward.
I think that the events industry, in a nutshell, pre-pandemic, we were 99% in person. Pandemic, we had to go 100%, virtual. Post-pandemic, there was this phase of uncertainty. Which meant we saw kind of the market staying slightly in virtual. Plus, you have kind of lead times for events. You can't plan an event overnight, so you have maybe a 6 months lead time to book hotels, transport, accommodation, all these things. So there was this kind of transition period. Then 2023 saw the real big swing back to in person, and 2024 that continues. And I think we're going to see the dial come back a bit now, slightly. It went way back more to in person than I thought, and now the market was starting to see glimpses of it coming back where companies are going, actually, we can do a bit of a mixture of both. We can do, the core big events in person, and the touch points in between can be virtual, or we're seeing, different industries doing different things, but essentially that's what we're seeing.
So it's like a hybrid model, I suppose, where people are sort of blending the virtual with the main event, and that seems to make sense to me, that if you've got a big event, you might as well use sort of mini virtual events to lead up to it. Does that happen?
It does happen, but I think humans are creatures of habit, and so they're sometimes uncomfortable with change, and that's certainly one thing that I think is a good thing to do, just to look at change, to understand it, to see what you can I used to say during the pandemic, I used to say, accept what you cannot change, adapt to what you can, do your best, and see if you can help others on the way,
Mm.
and that served me in good stead. And now I'm seeing the back of that, where everything's gone properly back into in person. But there's still some really good business to be done in virtual, and it can be super effective.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. I must admit, I've been to a few in-persons recently, events that I've had to pay to go to. So
Yeah,
it's not like a corporate thing where I'm just invited and I've just got to get there. But I am very much more particular about when I go and how I get there. So the events I've gone to recently have been on the train, and being a bit more mindful about do I really need to go? What's the purpose of this? And there are, as you say, there are needs, and there's certain things that you can't really do on a virtual situation, and in person is what you've got to do. But
yeah.
um, so is that a consideration? You're finding more and more people are having that consideration with regards to, do we really need to have this as an in-person event?
For sure. I mean, there's so many things that we learned from the pandemic, and I can't believe we're still talking about the pandemic. But it's
Mm.
still such a strong, impact today. But the main things, like you said, people are much more conscious of their time. Time is really valuable to people now, and there's something
Yeah.
during the pandemic, we all got like 2 hours of our day back because there was no commute needed, and we're all remote working. So what have we done with those 2 hours? Have we used them, for health? Have we used them for more work, or whatever?
Mm.
So time is a big factor. And I think, you know, I always say there's two audiences that will, or well, some big factors actually, but time is a big factor. There is the cost element of it. Can I warrant the cost to travel by train or plane or car? That factor comes into it. Um, and there's also people now considering, actually, there's the environmental factor as well.
Mm.
Can I justify flying to wherever for this conference, or would it be better off doing it virtually? So, I always say to people that the main factors that come in are deciding whether should go in person or not. Is time element of it, sustainability is a big part of it,
Mm.
budget, of course. Events are much more expensive to produce now than they were,
Yeah.
and that's why I think people really need to think carefully about the value of running an in-person event. Could you run a virtual one to get the global kind of position and the audience, and then from that, all the data that you get, you narrow down, okay, then we should hold an in-person event for this core audience, because that is the audience that really matters to us. And I
Yeah.
think that's the corporate start to think about that now.
Yeah, so I guess there's a clear person for the in-person event, and
For
all the
sure.
lead up to it is done virtually. Yeah, makes sense. So I'd be interested to just talk about why events are, why they actually exist, and what is the main purpose, do you see an organisation putting on an event? Is it just to bring people together, or is there other things going on generally?
No, I mean, there's a whole array of things. Every events will have its own objectives and all those things, but typically it revolves around a community that have a common, area of interest, and that you need to get some knowledge across. From one party to another. Essentially, that's what it is.
Hmm.
Whether that's a celebration, you just think a private event like weddings. You're going to have all the summer socials now, aren't you? You're going to have, hey, time to get everybody together. Let's have an in-person, summer barbecue, and be thankful to the people that have helped you through the last, 6 months or 12 months, or whatever. I'm doing that actually, coming up on the 20th of July. We're having a fun get together with the Event Organisers Network. So I'll share some details on that, but
Yeah.
that is going to be exciting.
Yeah, well, I think, like you said there, it's bringing people together, and there's also an opportunity to learn together, isn't there? And also, when you're learning and then you're then mingling and having a chat, then there's an extra element there which is sort of difficult to facilitate as such online, isn't there? I mean, there's lots of, thankfully the technology is so much better than it was pre-pandemic, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
that's one thing we noticed, that the technology, the advancements that were made within that period were vast, weren't they?
yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think, like you say, you walk into a room, And you get the energy of the room, you get the vibe. You don't really get that in the online space. It can be very efficient online. That's certainly, efficiency is what it really does. But walking into a room and you might see someone in the corner and go, "Oh, Mark's here. I've got to go across. I haven't seen him in ages," and go and have that quick conversation and quick catch up. And you have the whole body language and that kind of stuff. So you get a lot of those, that you get the full experience in that. The downside of that is the time that it takes, to be there. And can you warrant, the value that you will get out of being at a particular event, and the information you'll get from that, rather than staying at home and dialing remotely. And so that will be different. So the example I give is, if you are a super fan of, say the Swifties, like Taylor Swift, they really want to be in the room. They really
Yeah.
want to go and get the vibe and be there. Whereas for something else, where it's someone that just want to hear this one song, or they want to hear this one talk or this one presentation out of 15, they're not
Yeah.
going to go there just for that one
Yeah.
piece of information. People want to consume everything when they want to be in person, and that's where that dial has shifted a bit.
Well, I've noticed with these big concerts now, you can pretty much watch the whole thing on YouTube. It might not be all the whole concert in one go, but
Yeah,
if you just search, you can literally find every song that they sung during that concert. Someone's recorded it and uploaded it. So
yeah, Glasgow
yeah,
being a classic one, isn't it? So
yeah, yes. Now, Franco, when we were trying to bring this together and pick a date where we can have this conversation, and obviously being live, the first time we had to cancel it because you told me that you were going to an AI conference or something around AI. So I think it'd be remiss of me not to mention AI, and it's obviously at
yeah.
your front of mind. So tell me how that's your AI is affecting what you do.
Well, it's like I said earlier on. AI is out of the can now, isn't it? The genie's out. And burying your head in the sand, going, no, no, I'm not going to engage with it at all. For me, so I've had some capacity this year, having had less virtual events. So I just thought I'll go and do a course on AI, and it was super interesting. And there's so much of it, so it can be an absolute rabbit warren, and you can get lost. You can be on ChatGPT or Mid-Journey, or there's a ton of apps there that are absolutely brilliant. But for me, the big learning was, it starts with trust, doesn't it? And can you trust it? And so the people are fearful because they don't know whether they can trust it or not. So for me, I use a paid account, because then that kind of locks information and remembers me. And it costs like $20 a month, like for ChatGPT. That's how much you pay someone an hour.
Yeah.
So for me, the AI bit, the big piece about AI is treat it like an apprentice, and you have to teach it about your business, teach it about your tone, your brand, what you do, and with a paid account, it remembers all that.
Yeah.
So that's really really useful stuff, and then you can have engaging and super interesting kind of dialogue to research what you need to do and get things done. I think that's an important thing. But the free ones, yes, it's a bit of a distraction. You can get it to rewrite stuff. You can get it to suggest structure and that kind of thing. But check the information that you're getting. So with a paid one, I can instruct it in saying, I want to know where you got all these sources from. Can you verify X, Y, Z? So it can do all that, and all that content, it remembers it specifically to me and my business. So that's really useful. So I would definitely say have a paid account. Do it for a few months, see how you get on. You pay monthly, so it's no biggie. And then there's a ton of tools out there, and you can use them, in a kind of quite interactive way. We did one with the Entrepreneur Network, Festival, and we asked people, what does it feel like to be an entrepreneur? So people put that sentiment in there, and then we coded it, and then Midjourney would come back with an image that would represent that sentiment, and then at
Wow.
the end of the day, we put all those images together, and it did a narrative for this video that was about 90 seconds long, evoking what does it mean to be and so that was really engaging. So you can use it really
Yeah.
well, but I think do not cut and paste for sure. You do not like grab and just like, there you go, all done. You see the classic posts on LinkedIn, that are AI generated, and they've all got, that same kind of format of, engaging post and an icon statement, icon statement, icon statement, hashtag, and these long things. I think you have to try and stay true to your voice and use AI as a tool, as an apprentice, etc. But it still needs to come from your authentic self, and that's where the dividing line is. Can I trust it? Is it authentic? Is it Franco talking, or is it just like some random AI stuff that's come up? So that's why I value paying the $20 a month. It's absolutely worth it for me.
That's interesting. I've never heard that described that way. And I had an AI expert on the podcast a few weeks ago and talk about generative AI. But essentially, that's what it does. It learns about you, and then it becomes more and more informative about you. And so, like you say, it becomes almost like a personal assistant in many ways, where it knows.
Like an apprentice. So when an apprentice walks in through your door, you're not going to expect them to know everything. Say, right, okay, this is my business. I like connecting people. I do virtual mostly. We do some hybrid. This is how I wrote. This is how I respond. This is my tone. Address me as Franco. I've given my chat GPT. I call her Charlotte.
Right. Okay.
I just thought I'll call you Charlotte. Charlotte, can you and XYZ?
So you talk to it as well.
Well, you can talk to it. I use it also. I use it to summarize my meetings. I use it now if I go to a presentation. Actually, I went to one recently about the future trends, which is really interesting, at the run by the Bristol Creative Industries. And I just do bullet points of what people are saying, and you record the conversation, and then you ask AI, can you give me a summary of this, so that I've got that kind of in the bank, and then I can refer back to it if I need to, and then dig deeper further down. And it does all that for you. It's really, really good. I don't use that to cut and paste. There you go. But I use it for my own knowledge, and then with the Franco kind of brush, then so I use it for structure. But going back to that point about the apprentice, if you've got an apprentice walking through the door, you're not going to tell them, there you go, get on with it. You're going to tell them about who you are, what you do, what they need to do. Oh, yeah, that's good, but can you refine that, because that's not quite the tone. That's not what I meant. Just that dialogue. So consider it like that, but pay the money is my advice.
Yeah. Brilliant. Excellent. Okay. So AI is going to obviously have more and more effect on the way we all work, isn't it? And that's the message there, isn't it? And make sure you embrace it, because there's lots of ways that it's going to, I like that. Love the idea about bringing together everybody's sort of feelings about being an entrepreneur, and then sort of graphically representing it. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, that was great. I did a post. It is on LinkedIn. I did a post a while back on it, but yeah.
Okay, cool. So one of the things that you said that you'd like to talk about today is mental health, and there's some particularly mental health things that you've overcome recently. And do you want to share that story that you shared with me?
Yeah, for sure. I will talk and let my dog out at the same time. Sorry, I'll be right back on. But Charlie's trying to watch the door. But yeah, so here. Whoops, go on, out you go. So this is definitely live.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
If you thought, Charlie's outdoors.
So I've been struggling with mental health for since about 2007, 2008. The event industry is notoriously stressful job. You have very firm deadlines. You've got a ton of plates to spin and all that stuff. So anyway, and then at the start of the pandemic, I was like, this is going in the wrong direction. Do something about it. And so I decided to switch medication with, open water swimming, and that's what I've done. Kind of the Wim Hof kind of immersion and stuff like that. And that's great. Cold showers, but it's been a revelation. I've really enjoyed it. I'm part of a little group here in Bath called the Icebreakers. Shout out to the Icebreakers. And it's really nice. We swim year round. I only do it maybe twice a week. Some guys do it every day, but typically we do it 2 to 3 times a week, and it's great. When you go in that cold water in January, and it's kind of frosty, and you've got a beautiful blue sky shining through the mist, and you go in that water, and it is cold. It freezes everything out, but you get real kind of peace, and you get a massive buzz out of it. So that was my. I switched medication. Don't do it over time. Do it over time.
Yes.
Overnight.
So,
Get professional advice. That was my choice.
Yeah,
I weaned myself off medication over a year.
that's
And
amazing. That is
and yeah,
literally
and it's great.
amazing.
And yeah, really, really,
Mm.
I highly recommend it. And there's a big group in Bath and Bristol and in Brighton. There's some guys in London now. So it's a growing community, and it's good for the body, good for the head.
Yeah, I'm so pleased for you because finding something that's I assume you've learned to enjoy it as well. So if you do something that you enjoy rather than taking medication, and also you're overcoming the challenges that you have to deal with regards to the ADHD stuff, then
Yeah,
that's a great story. But obviously, we're not advocating that everyone should suddenly start open water swimming and going and ditching their meds. That's not what we're suggesting. Just to
yeah,
make sure that's clear. But there are alternative
yeah.
things you
Professional
can
advice.
explore.
Other
Um,
supermarkets do exist.
indeed,
No,
indeed,
but
indeed.
you touched on the ADHD thing there as well, which I'm happy to share. For me, I've always known, and it's nice to get a bit of a diagnosis. It doesn't change anything, but it helps you understand yourself better. And a classic thing for me that really came out, one is I interrupt, and I had to apologize recently to my team and with the client. I said, I'm really sorry, I jump in because I'm ahead of the conversation, and so I interrupt. So and once you position that, people understand you a bit better. And it's like, oh, Franco's not being rude, it's just like how he is.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And the other thing is I have two time frames. I have now and not now. So now it becomes like priority and hyper focus, and anything that might be in a week or 2 weeks or in a month, it's like, no, that's not even in my radar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's weird, but getting understanding of one's brain and way of functioning is actually, it's an interesting read.
Yeah, and understanding yourself is so important, isn't it? I've got a friend who has just been sort of diagnosed as well, and it made so much sense to him. And now he realizes certain things that are happening, that he has a way of doing things which does cause not so much him problems, but it's the people around him that
Yeah,
has the problem that to deal with, and he makes very sort of impulsive decisions, and when he needs to do something, it has to be done, and it's front of mind like you've just described, and it has to be done now, 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 now. Of course,
yeah.
it drives people in. To
Insane
distraction, saying,
sometimes.
why is this so important? There's other things going on in the world. It's not just about this one thing. And
Yeah.
obviously, you described there exactly,
But
the
if you
challenges.
say, oh, there you go, interrupting again. Sorry. But if you say to your friend, do you have two time frames like now and not now, and that'll
Oh
resonate, I
well.
think, quite a lot. Yeah.
I'll send him a clip of this podcast, I think, and see whether it
And there's some good
resonates.
books as well, and I know it's been, out there and lots of ADHD, and you can't get an appointment for this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, it boils down to understanding yourself, and you can get a book and you can read about it. Some things in the book will, it's a spectrum, isn't it? It's not
Mm,
like, it's not binary. You're not like completely ADHD or not. There's a range of dials up and down on there, and
mm.
then it's reading a book and understanding yourself better is helpful because, as you say, it we function, or we sorry I function, but it does impact the people around you, and having a greater understanding of that just makes for a smoother way, in relationships, in work, at home, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. But the thing that I'm really hot on with my clients is actually reminding them that actually, whatever it is that you have to deal with in personality and all the other things that we find out about ourselves, it's actually realizing the benefits of those things. Like some people call them superpowers or whatever it is, but actually, I'm thinking maybe that sort of way that you see things in the industry that you work in can be seen as actually a positive, because it is very much get stuff done, and you can't really sort of dilly dally about stuff. So does that sort of resonate?
yeah,
Do you think
absolutely,
that's
yeah, yeah,
yeah?
it really does. And people sometimes think, yeah, but because I'm on my administration, I'm not very organized, so I have to put structure and things in place to manage that. But when you're spinning so many plates for an event, you're in this hyper focus mode, and you're able to spin all these things like, and run so many different different streams, different people, firefighting. There's a problem here that's going well, and you're spinning all these plates, and that's a real kind of buzzy space to be in. and it makes sense, that it is a skill and a strength to be able to do that. But you have to somebody compared it to, like, you've got like a turbocharged brain that can function super quickly, but then the brakes don't work very well either. So you've got to be
Right.
aware of that,
Yeah.
and you need to manage that. So as long as you're aware of it, then you can do something about it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I know it's obviously quite personal, but I think hopefully somebody that may be having those challenges might actually realise actually that's maybe something I need to check out, because I think awareness is so important, self-awareness, and if you have
Yeah.
more awareness, then it helps you, doesn't it? So we're sat here on Friday, the 5th of July, and we've just found out the result of a general election. That doesn't
Yeah.
happen very often when we're recording these podcasts. So, yeah, what's your general opinion? We're not going to go down the political road, but just sort of leadership. I think we'll keep it to leadership, because that's an important sort of business principle with
Yeah.
regards to what you've noticed with in leadership in general.
Well, I think for me, the big piece about that is down to trust. At the end of the day, I referred it back to it with AI and that kind of stuff, and you got to have it boils down to trust, both ways. The trust that you engender in people that are around you and work with. If they've got your back, you've got their back, and it's a circular relationship, isn't it? And then when trust goes and it just disappears, then eventually that things fall apart. And we saw that strong leadership, decision making, and knowing that you're making a decision, that you've got the trust of your team, that you can crack on. So for me, that's why for us the our three kind of underpinning values are trust, expertise, and collaboration. Trust that we can do the work and we work well, and our team are brilliant like that. The expertise, you've got to know what you're doing. And then the thing that we learned most actually from the pandemic is that collaborative piece. You can collaborate, you can work really nicely. Like you collaborating, doing these podcasts and stuff, and just like gleaning the knowledge from different people, applying it with your stuff. All this is underpinned with trust. If
Yeah.
trust goes, things start falling apart.
Brilliant. Yeah. Great. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes just to sit back. Franco, I'm going to share bits and pieces from what we've discussed, and share my 7-step model that I alluded to at the beginning of the podcast. This is the 7 steps. I call it, this is how you get the measure of your business. It all starts here with M.E.A.S.U.R.E, and that's the M in measure. And as we've been talking about, really, it's important to understand yourself in many ways. I particularly focus on behaviour styles and motivations, and also character strengths. But like Franco has just alluded to with regards to the ADHD that he's become aware of now, he can then be aware of it and actually take it into account and realises the impact he has with others. That's the key. And realising that actually there is a positive. All these things have a positive sort of trait that you can actually use in business, and I've come across many that have had those neurodiverse sort of challenges, and actually they've actually identified actually it's helped them to get where they are. So it's not all like, oh, I need to solve this problem. It's actually something that I can embrace. So that's the 7-step module. We work our way around from here, to evaluate action. Systemizing is important. I think we've alluded to how we can systemize and have almost like a AI assistant or an apprentice. By using that, you can actually teach somebody to that sort of AI to support you in your work. One way of systemizing. And as we work our way around, then it's about building a team, and Franco's mentioned the importance of collaboration being one of his important values. So I just want to mention motivation as something that I pretty much mention most of the podcast, to be honest. And the one thing I know about Franco is that he has high friend motivation. And the thing is, there's no good or bad motivators. They're all equally good. But the thing is that when you know something is important to you, and something is something that you want to get from your work, when you get that fulfilled in your work, it makes you feel better, you perform better. And so when we talk about the friend, what do they want? It's about belonging, fulfilling relationships. And I know Franco's all about that, and he has a network that he brings together, and he talked about one of his values being collaboration. And so it's one of those things that if you know what drives you and it's core to your business, then make sure that your motivations are part of that thinking with regards to what type of business am I going to run here, how am I going to run it. And as I've mentioned recently a lot in things that I've seen on social media, the classic example is that everybody wants to come to work and have meaning in their work, and that's different for everybody. But if we remember the scenario where the president, I think it's JFK, asked the janitor at NASA what he was doing, and he replied, "I'm helping to put a man on the moon." That's essentially what we all want. We want to know the purpose we have and actually the difference we make. And if you're leading a team, remember that, because it can have massive effects on how people feel about their work. So there, just a few comments from me. Franco, anything to add to that?
No, I think that resonates. The friendship, the belonging, the bringing people together. You know, you always end up. You know, I always say lean towards what makes you happy. So I'm in this slight kind of dichotomy now of doing virtual events. Because actually that distanced me. You know, it was when we were super busy, it was great because, you know, there was lots of plate spinning and my brain was busy and all that stuff. Now it's not so busy. So that's why, you know, I'm going to bring E.ON back out and with this event and start re-engaging now with the in-person stuff. You know, that's an important part for me.
Do you want to tell us a bit more about that? And we can also put a link below in the comments if anybody's interested.
This only came about in my typical fashion, late notice, but literally last night I had a discussion to confirm it. But we're going to be doing a thing down at Avon Valley on the Saturday, 20th of July. And it's going to be with, I think, Europe's largest inflatable kind of track thing. So bouncy castle, kind of assault course. And we'll have some drinks and some food and get some people together. So informal, come together, enjoy the summer. Doesn't matter what the weather will be because it will be slip and sliding all over the place anyway. So, yeah, so I'll share some details on that. Yeah.
Good stuff. I also remember going there once. I fell out of a boat in their lake. Nothing to do with anything they did. It was purely my fault, but I fell in their lake and had to swim to the side. Anyway, so that sounds like a great event. Hopefully nobody falls in the lake like I did. But thank you today, Franco, for your time. It's been really great to catch up. Shared loads and very sort of personal stuff in many ways. So thank you for that. And hopefully we can catch up in person soon, sometime.
All right. Thanks for having me, Mark. That's great.
Take care. There we are. That's Franco. It's all about events, mainly virtual these days. But anything that you have questions around, any events that you might be trying to bring together, then he's a great person to talk to and has some brilliant contacts. So don't hesitate to get in contact with Franco. Right. So before we go, then just to remind you, there's my book, The Motivated, available from me or from Amazon. You can help to keep the podcast on the road, as it were, by buying me a coffee. Every contribution is much appreciated. And if you buy 2 coffees, then we will send you a copy of my book. So that's it. Thank you very much again to Franco. And until next time, have a great day. And we'll see you very soon on the next episode of the Motivated Business Show.